All right, we talked a little bit about this in class. There's this really cool Lowe's paint color animation that they put out. I'm just going to play a little bit of it.
Inspiration can come from anywhere when you're
Um, Lots of cool elements. It's pretty long. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll just kind of snap through so you can kind of see like some of the stuff that this does. Pretty cool. I was looking on the thread, and the guy that made it said it took him 2 weeks. I would assume a lot of these elements and storyboards were done at that point, and they just needed him to do the raw animation. So um, I could be wrong, but that's what I would guess. So pretty cool, nice looking. How to pick your paint color animation. I brought it into After Effects. I wanted to kind of show how you would kind of remake some of this stuff. So let's look at just this number one animation. Actually, let's go to 2 when we don't have a transition out of it. They all do transitions. Maybe they all do transitions. Let's go to 1. We'll do that. So we'll do it. We're focusing mostly on this circle stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this comp just to that so we can loop it a bunch of times. Okay, so this is what we're going to be focused on, just this section. I'm going to trim comp to work area. So what I'm going to do is do my best to recreate this as best as possible. So let's start with these circles. I'm just going to do a new shape layer. We'll do add an ellipse, and I'm going to fill it. Actually, I need to do stroke on not fill. So we'll do this white one. Actually, let's do this faded blue one down here first. It looks like he might have lowered the opacity on it, but I'm just going to copy the color for now, just directly off of this. Okay, let's dive into stroke and let's make the thickness similar. We'll bring our size of our circle up a little bit and bring our stroke width up a little bit. About there. It's about to be how thick it is. And then let's do a trim paths and let's animate this guy. So I'm going to animate, I think he does both start and end. So I'm going to turn my layer off for now. Actually, what I'm going to do is bring my opacity way down. Okay, so where does that layer start? It starts up here. Looks like it starts pretty much at the very top. So let's grab our trim paths and let's bring my opacity up. If it'll let me. Okay. So I want to start with this guy. I'm pretty much at 0, it looks like. And then from this point, goes around a couple times all the way to the edge. It eventually completes, actually. So to about here. My guess is it completes, it goes to like 100. And then this guy comes around. It's kind of confusing how this works, because then it will probably offset. It rotates the entire thing. So I'm going to move mine over so we're not right on top of it. Okay, so it goes around. It looks like it's the offset. The offset might be going the whole time. So let me do offset. Do like 180 degrees of offset throughout this. So what happens? I'm going to pay attention to this start point, because this is my end up here, right? So it goes around. My start ends here at about this point. It gets there and stops, right? So about right there. Okay, so this comes around. I need to adjust my speed, obviously, but because this is more like here at this point. these kind of stay here. I'm just kind of adjusting these values. So my offset, this ends about here, and then this needs to come over. So, and then does this go back then, I wonder? Back to 0? What is that?
Right paint for you. First,
I think we're getting there. It's kind of a cool way to do it, actually. So a little bit different. His ends down here. I guess if we wanted to do that, we could, let me move my start so we can see where this is going to segment. We can make my offset come down here further, and then this end at 0.
right paint for you. First,
Okay, that's pretty cool. So what if we easy ease these? And then if we do grab the start and end and make these go to my speed graph. I only want these guys. I don't want offset. I need to turn off the show animated properties. I just want what I select. Okay, so here's these guys. I'm going to bring my Bezier curves forward and back so it has
right paint for you.
exaggerated easy ease.
Right paint.
And it looks like that
Right
looks
paint for
pretty
you.
close.
First,
So on top of that, he's got more layers that probably do the same thing. So if I do this, if I just duplicate this, and then I make this top one this blue piece, so I go to my stroke and I change that color to this darker blue, and I bring in my size just a hair, and it looks like everything else is about the same, and then it looks like my offset needs to change where these start from, because this one starts down here. So I think if my offset goes from 0 to 128, I just need to, I'm going to drag this out so I can see where this starts. I need to drag these guys so this starts down here. If I had this over here, nothing's out yet. My start and end are both at 0, so I had to drag it out a little bit so I could just see where this is going to start. So if it starts down here, I can put this back. And I know I want to go 128 degrees more offset through this animation. So if I have 240 here, I need to make this 240 plus 128. And that should looks like his starts out slow. So my speed ramp's a little bit different, you can see, but for the most part, this is
right paint for you.
the same. So it's a little bit different. Okay, so let's talk about, man, this thing's really interesting, this little white piece. So it does a full circle and stops a few times. So let's duplicate this guy again. And let's change this color to, oh, weird, it should have brought up my stroke. Let's change the stroke to the white color. Bring the width to like 1, maybe 2. And then I think the butt cap is actually rounded edge. Oops. And then I need to bring my offset on this one. I'm going to hit U. I'm going to move this forward again so I can see where it's going to start. And I need to move my offset back up to the top. So it's pretty much just 0 is what my offset's going to be. So I'll 0 that out. And I'm going to make this 0, 128. So this one goes a little bit faster through here. Looks like there's a couple where it does it twice. So, and this doesn't, this is going to be a little bit different. So my start goes, my end needs to be right behind it, essentially. So if I bring this guy up, oops. So I need you to, oh, that's my offset. I need my end. I'm just going to redo these completely. So let's do this. So we have my start and my end. I essentially need my start to go all the way around, right? And my end to go all the way around. And I want my end to start, or my start, I want my end to go first. Make sure I'm doing this right. And then, yeah, so it's like a little trailing effect. The longer I bring this out, the more trail I have. Right? So it looks like it does it a couple times, so I can probably, and it's underneath my big blue layer, looks like. No, it's above my big blue layer. So it's on the very top. Okay. And I think once this goes around and disappears here, I think it starts again. When does it start again? About here-ish. So I'll duplicate that, move it over. Okay, how are we looking?
Right paint for you. First,
We're getting there. We have the majority of it pretty much completed. Some of the movement's not exact, but that's how you would play with it. Let's talk about this center animations thing. So we have this light blue line that scales up. So we'll just duplicate our main one, and I will remove any of the animation. I'm just going to delete trim paths altogether, actually, because we don't want to trim path it. And this is going to be, let me zoom out to when this is at rest. So it's just a nice thin line on the outside. So let's go to stroke options. See if I can eyedrop this. It's the same as this one, so we'll do that. And then I want to go to my path, bring it in to about here, bring my stroke width down to 1, 2, to 2. And then I want to scale it up. So it starts scaling here. So, oops, that's this one. Do a scale move. Actually, I'm going to bring my whole layer over so I know where it starts. Scale it here. And it's up by about this point. So we'll scale this down to 0. And then we'll ease these. Kind of explodes out. So I'll go to my graph editor and I'll start it fast. I'll bring this all the way over and this all the way over so it explodes quick and then slows down.
right paint for you. First,
Maybe bring that out just a little bit more.
right paint for you. First, stick.
That's pretty close. And then we've got our explodey effects, right? Okay, so let's do explodey effects. Explodey effects like this and using the repeater work best if you start in the middle here. So if I grab my pen tool, I draw it out. How big are these explodey effects? So there's about this much distance above, so I need to draw it pretty much up to this line from the middle. Okay, so from here to here, I'm going to hold shift. Oops. I'll click here once, hold shift so it's straight up, click up here. I am going to get rid of my fill, and I will bring my stroke way down. I don't remember how thick these are. How thick are these? Looks like the stroke gets smaller as it goes out. So it starts about here. So that's good. Okay, so let's throw a repeater on this. And let's go to my repeater effects and my transform repeater. I want to get rid of my position because I want them all to start on the same position. I want there to be, how many copies of this are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 29. Okay, so copies, 29. And I want them to rotate. So this is going to be 360 degrees divided by 29. Okay, that makes it the perfect circle. It's going to explode out from here. So let me go back to this, just hide everything else. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. So for my shape and my repeater, I made 29 copies, and then there's 360 degrees in a circle, so I did 360 degrees divided by 29. That gives us this lovely shape. Now we need to animate it. Okay, so let's scroll to where this starts. Starts about here. And we'll do a trim paths on this, where these start and end at the same time. So we'll keyframe start and end. We'll go forward till these are all the way out to about, let's see, they hit the end point to about there. So my end should be about 100% because I'm looking at the very tips here and where they end. So if we scrub through this, pretty much end about right there. They go up one more, maybe a little bit, but right there for the most part. And then we'll go to where the backside, where this catches up with this. We'll scroll forward to that, which is about there. About there. So that's when my start needs to find its way there, right? Okay, so now I need to adjust these guys a little bit because my start and end go at the same time because they're going at different speeds, which is not what we want. But let's easy ease this. It's actually not that far away from what this looks like already. So what can we change? I think they start out a little slower, it looks like. And they end kind of slow too, so let's just drag these guys in, see what that does. When do they really explode? They start a lot slower, okay. They start a lot slower, so let's drag these guys all the way forward.
Right paint for you. First,
That's pretty close. Right here is really where it hits its big move. So actually I'm going to grab these and I'm going to drag these guys this way a little bit more even. And it looks like my end here, looks like this needs to explode out a little bit earlier. So when I grab all these together, it kind of makes a shame graph, but I actually need these to align to peak at pretty much similar spots. So if I grab my end, let's see, I have my start, my end. I need this guy to be over this way more. I need these lines to be somewhat similar. Maybe like that. What does that look like?
right paint for you. First,
There we go. That looks sweet. Pretty close. Okay, so at like this point, it looks like the stroke starts coming down. So if I go to my stroke now, and I do, let's see, what can we do? Let's change this to round. What's projecting cap? I don't know what that is, but it looks pretty cool. And let's do stroke width. Let's animate the stroke width to end to get really small right at the end here as this goes out. So let's do like, bring it down to like 2. And we'll just easy ease that. So let's see all our keyframes here. So we got our start and our end and our stroke width. Let's see how we're looking. I'm just going to ISO all these. Actually, I'll just hide the one thing that we don't care about. See what mine looks like. I need to center these up. Make sure this is center. Okay, how does that look?
right paint for you. First,
That's pretty good. Let's make a non-crappy background so this doesn't look so bad. Let's copy theirs here. So it looks like they have a vignetted edge just very slightly. So if we do a ramp on our background here, we can't see it because this is over the top right now. I'm just going to copy these pieces. So start color we'll put in the middle. End color we'll take from the corner. We'll do a radial ramp and we'll start our gradients. We want our start to be in the center, our end to be down here. So it fades from here to here. So if we put this on top, that's pretty close. Not too bad. Maybe not quite as much vignetting. So let's bring this back up just a hair. Actually, maybe we need to go out a little bit further. So now it's down here. Okay. How's that first circle?
right paint for you. First, stick to your
That's pretty
Right paint
close.
for you. First, stick to your
The nice thing about this is like when you add so many, like they don't really have to be perfect. As long as they're all doing their own thing and it's mildly interesting, it looks pretty cool. Where's my circle? I'm gonna start this guy a little late.
right paint for you. First, stick to your
That's cool. I like it. If we throw motion blur on, what does that
right
look
paint
like?
for you. First, stick to your
It's gonna make my computer explode. That's what's gonna happen.
right paint for you. First, stick to your right paint for you. First,
Cool. I like it. Yeah, it looks good. I'm trying to pay attention to the stroke on there. That's sweet. I like it. Okay, let's go back to here. So we have a little sliding background here. We can bring that in. Oh, we've got these cool little things out here too. I didn't notice. So we could do that too if we really wanted to. I should be naming all these, but I don't care anymore at this point. I'm gonna hide my background. So let's do that. Let's make our side ones. I duplicated it. I'm gonna get rid of my trim paths and just re-add it so we can start from scratch. I'll bring this guy a little bit bigger so it's on the outside. I'm going to copy the stroke to match this. And I'm going to actually let's bring our size down a little bit, and then we just need to do our trim paths now. So it looks like if I bring this guy down, ends up being about that big, and let's offset. I think it start down low. Yeah, so it starts down here. So it just grows a little bit. Everything else can probably be offset, can be your main move. So I can probably just have this grow. So my end can start at 0. We'll just do the same timing that they use. Let me go find when they start. So it starts about here. And it ends about there. Oops, I need to be doing my start, not my end. No, what am I doing? I think I need to go backwards. So it needs to be there we go. So if these both start at 14, or this at 15, I guess. Nah, 14. And we'll do our move here. So there's our move. That's too much. Let's bring this back. Okay, so there's our move. Looks good. And then we just need to do the offset then. I don't need this keyframe. So we'll do the offset from here, and it ends about here. So I'll adjust the offset to go up. And we'll easy ease these. And it looks like it starts slow, shoots out, ends really slow. And that's all, for the most part, offset, it looks like. Actually, it's probably both. Let's do what we did before. So where we crunch these slow, crunch these slow. And then I wonder if we grab this guy, if we can try to adjust this more so they're kind of on top of each other so the movement happens at the same time. What does that look like?
right paint for you. First, stick
Looks good. Almost identical. Now we can copy that or duplicate it. This is getting confusing with all these weird layers. We'll go to my stroke, and we'll do it's a white, so we'll just copy the white. I'm going to bring down the stroke width to the 2, and I'm going to put it behind the layer that I was just working on. So that's this. I'm going to put it behind this layer. And so that's layer 8. So I need to go to my trim paths now, and I need to make this so it juts out faster and ends slower, and it ends a lot bigger too. So let's do So the end ends about here. And my start ends... See, the problem is this is all backwards, which gets confusing. So my offset needs to be up here. My end needs to be down here-ish. So I'm just setting the final position of this. And then we'll have to set the beginning position of this. So my offset needs to come down. You need to come in. See, this gets so weird because it should be backwards. I think if we, you guys are gonna get mad at me for this. So we have our ending position. You can hit this and it'll reverse the path direction. So if I flip this is gonna be so much easier. Oh, I'm a dummy. I'm just gonna zero out my offset for now. 0, 0. We're gonna bring this to the starting point, so it starts down here. Actually, what we can do, this is what I should have done on the first one, but whatever. So my starting point's up here, we go this way. I'm just going to rotate this whole thing to about where it should start, about down here. Okay, and now let's go to our trim paths. I want to see my start too. Okay, so now my end can just do the one move where we're going. I don't need this guy. Where we're going from essentially 0 to my ending point, which can be 21, so or 20 degrees. That's easy enough. And then our offset is what needs to shift this guy up. That's so much easier. I was trying to do it in a weird reverse way, so I could go back and fix it, but I kind of got the other one working anyway. So, okay, so these need to explode a lot faster. So I'm going to grab these. I'm going to bring them up this way. Bring these up this way. Then I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to match that movement. Why is this down here? What does that end on? 20 plus 35. Okay. So this also starts a little bit earlier, so I'm going to bring this guy this way. Okay. So there's a little bit of a start difference there. Okay, so there's my 1. I need to do my 1 animation where it slides down, and then the fade comes on my 1, right? So let's hide this for now. Bring back my background. So let's get my 1 in there. Let's go to the text tool, throw in a big fat 1. Of course, trade Gothic, you got to do that. I'm going to line it center. I'm going to grab my pan behind tool, grab my anchor point, hold control, and bring it to the center. Oops, to the center until it snaps there. If I can do that correctly, that would be wonderful. There we go. And I'm going to align this to the center of my comp. Looks like I need to shift it over just a hair. Okay, and I'll make it a little bit smaller. Kind of align that to where center is. And then I have to do a position move. So I'll start this here so I can see my circle. My position move is going to go from here. And I'll animate backwards to go up. So it goes up here. And then we need to use a track mat to bring that in, right? So I already have all these circles done, so I might as well just copy one of these to use as my track mat. Bring it up here. I'm just going to ISO that for right now. And I'm going to get rid of our stroke, because we don't need a stroke, we need a fill. That'll fill that in. I can use that now as my track mat. And I can set my track mat to alpha inverted mat. So when it, oops, not alpha inverted, alpha mat. So it'll hide it when it's above it. Right, that looks pretty cool. Let's bring back our animation, ISO that, and see how this works. So it starts before this. So what we'll do is we'll just have to be a little bit late on it, but I will show ours as well. So we'll have ours end a little bit after. We'll just be a little bit behind on this thing, which is fine. So I'm going to bring that move to here, the ending point here. And it looks like it ends really, 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 really slowly. So I will grab these guys, ease them, go to my graph editor. I'm going to push these guys back so it starts real fast and ends really slowly.
Right paint for you.
Okay. So it comes down. I'm going to go ahead and hide this now and only show my animation. When I did that, for some reason, it didn't hide this, my track mat. I'm just going to go ahead and hide that so we don't care about it. Maybe that was my fault. Oh, this still has a trim path on it. Let's dive in there and delete that, because you can see how it's got this weird stuff on here. That's from the trim paths. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Looks like my position move's not up high enough, so I just need to adjust that up a little bit more. Oops. This guy's position. Okay, so it comes down. Sweet. And then my drop shadow comes in, so let's go to drop shadow. Drop shadow. Throw that on my one. Looks like it's angled up in this direction like that. Maybe there-ish. Maybe a little bit more distance. Maybe not quite that much distance. And angled that way. Is that about what it looks like? Let's see. Oops, I keep turning that on. It's my fault. It looks like it angles down and to the right, actually. So, my bad. This is going to be down this way. I'm going to turn the opacity to like 30% maybe, and then I'm going to bring my distance up even more to about there. Okay, that's pretty close, right? So I need to animate that distance move on it, right? So after it comes down, now my shadow comes up. So I'll animate distance here. Maybe do like a 10 keyframe move. I'll do another keyframe here. I'm going to start back here at 0. And I'll just ease this. We'll do kind of a super ease movement. Alright, bring these guys in. Start slow, get fast, end slow. Okay, where does that leave us?
Right paint for you. First, stick to your...
Nice. Let's go back and rewatch this. So it slides over when the explosion happens and the drop shadow comes. And we also have a dot here that comes up. So let's do the slide. So about here, we'll start the slide. I'm going to hide this again. There's a couple different ways we can do this. We could pre-compose this as all one layer now, if we wanted to do that. So I could grab all of these, and I could hit Control-Shift-C or go up to Layer, Pre-compose. I'm going to name this number 1. Okay, and I can do my position move here. So I can do position, maybe a 20 keyframe move over. Maybe not 20, maybe 15. We do about here. By this point, I want it to slide to the left, right? I will ease these guys, and I'll super ease it once I get in here. My graph editor. Super ease.
Right paint for you. First,
that's a little too fast. I'm going to make this a little slower.
Right paint for you. First, stick.
Actually, I want it to end like a lot slower. It looks like it slides for a while here. I'm going to bring this all the way over. I'm going to make it slower.
Right paint for you. First, stick.
Good. I like that.
Right paint for you. First, stick to your right paint for you. First, stick.
Nice. This is looking cool. I like it. Oops. Okay, so let's bring back up this. Now we have this guy that comes in, this weird little dude. So what we can do is we can just take our pen tool, and there's a few different ways we can do this. I think what they may have done is do an adjustment layer over our background, and then cut this as a corner piece. So from this point here, looks like it does a position move here to when it wipes off to about here. This one starts fast, ends slow, so I'll bring this guy over here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over so I know when it's going to start, and then bring my keyframes to the beginning. That way I know there's nothing here, that I know exactly when it comes in. So let's easy ease these. We're going to start fast. We're going to bring this over. We'll bring this guy over. Okay. Now we need to remake that effect. So let's get rid of this stuff and let's just show our layers here. I'm going to hide this. Actually, I don't need to. This is on top. So my adjustment layer is there. I just need to do the effect now. So a couple different ways we could do this. We could try a levels. What would that do? And maybe bring our whites, make them a little whiter. We could do that. What color is his? His goes to a little bit different shade. It goes to a little green shade too. So maybe we could do a hue and saturation adjustment to where we change our hue to a little bit more green color. Maybe like we do colorize. Now we can adjust our stuff here and find a green. And then bring our saturation. Maybe not that. Is there a... maybe not colorize. Maybe just hue. Find more of a green. Bring the saturation so it's not quite so crazy. Or maybe lightness so it's not a little bit darker. Just kind of adjust these levels. And then if I go to my opacity and bring this guy down, I can kind of lessen the impact of that, right? How close are we? That's pretty close. I have it a little bit too green, I think, so I'm going to make this like minus 22. Okay. So I threw the levels effect on it to brighten it up, crushed the whites down a little bit to brighten it up, brought the hue and saturation. I adjusted the hue to minus 22. And then I brought that was a little, if I do 100% on that, that's what it looks like. So I brought this down to, until it looks about right, maybe 45-ish. That looks pretty close. So you really, it has that vignette effect too, right? So I really need to get a total vignette on the background. So what I think he might have done, instead of ramping this, I think if he probably set this as his main color, so I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to set this background. I'm going to hide what we're doing here so you can see what I'm doing. I think he set this black background. Instead of black, he set it to this color. And I think he made a vignette to go over everything. And the way you do that is, this is going to be my, I don't know, BG2, we'll call it. We'll call this BG1. And then I think he did a new adjustment layer. And I'm going to name this Vignette. Vignette. Which is another way to do a ramp, but with an adjustment layer, it adds the gradient to everything. So if I do a vignette and then do ellipse tool, I can double click on that. It'll mask this adjustment layer. And then if I add a curves effect to my adjustment layer, my vignette, I can darken this, right? So I masked it out, so I'm only darkening the inside. I just need to flip this to subtract. And I need to feather this out. Right, so that might be a little too much craziness, so maybe not quite as dark. Maybe there. What does that look like if I show this? How far off am I? So maybe still a little bit too dark. Maybe there. Now that's still going to be pretty dark, huh? Okay. So now we have this piece darkening too, right? You get this edge. So a little bit closer to what that looks like. Pretty sweet. All right, we're getting there. Okay, so here's mine.
Right paint for you. First, stick
That looks pretty sweet. The nice thing about this, guys, is that you can save this, and you know this whole circle-y effect. You can save this and as a comp and import that into other compositions and adjust it and do whatever you want. So once you get things like this created and you really like them, you can use them elsewhere. You just gotta keep them in one spot and remember which ones you want to bring in. So I think he does similar moves like this later on down the road. So what else? What else? What else? What else? This is pretty neat. Stick to your favorites. Oh man, we might have to do this section in another lesson because that would take some time. But there's some track mats here on the text. This can just be a shape layer box that animates in. You can see he's got a track mat here that cover that up. The favorites thing is kind of cool. He's got like a little, let me zoom in here. There's like a little Venetian blinds effect under this, followed by, it looks like either a drop shadow or a second text layer underneath. It's a little bit different color to give it kind of some depth, which looks nice. And then the drop shadow here. So anyway, that's the first part of this. That looks
Right paint for you.
I think we matched it pretty darn close. That's pretty good. That's theirs.
Right paint for you. First.
Right. I also think they have some texture. If I bring this in, you can kind of see some very subtle texture stuff back here. There's a way to do that, and we might talk about that a little later. I don't think I have a texture offhand. Actually, I lied. Maybe I do. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find some texture stuff here. We've got I've got this Riot gear from Video Copilot, and they have some paper textures that are kind of cool in here. So if I grab one of these paper textures, I'll just grab one at random, throw it in here. If I throw that on top of my background, I'm going to have to scale this up. But we can give this a little bit of texture. Actually, if I rotate this 90, I probably don't have to scale this up quite as much. So you can see it has some of this texture-y stuff in here. If I change that to like an overlay, it gives that some texture, and then I can bring my opacity down. So that's what we had originally. Let me get rid of that and that. So that's what we had originally. When we bring this up, you can see it adds that kind of texture-y stuff. So maybe like there-ish. That looks pretty good. Adds that texture in. Other ways to do it, screen works, depending on what you're doing. For this, though, it looks like that's not going to be great. If we do add, no, that's not going to look good. So overlay is really the big one for this. So that's with 100% overlay. You can see it just adds that texture to it. It brightens the colors a little bit, too, because it's a white. It's white. If you wanted to, let me go back to normal. This is what just the texture looks like. If we add like a levels effect, to increase contrast, you can see that this is where most of the information lies on my levels curve. If we crush these, you can see like all the specific texture spots, like kind of make these black and white. And if we do a screen from there, it really kind of makes those more pronounced. So you can kind of be a little bit more selective about what shines through. So this is where you kind of removed some of the extra information. I'm just zooming in on this really closely. If I remove the levels, it looks like, well, this is 18%. You'd have to kick this up to kind of get something similar. So the levels effect will really make you just pull through what you want, right? So maybe there, just really subtle. Yeah, looks cool. I like that. Okay, here's our final work. And we did it in 44
Right
minutes.
paint for you.
Nice.
First, stick to your right paint.
Right, so we did 3 seconds of a 2.5-minute animation. So at this pace, we'll be done in like 10 years. Hopefully that helped, guys. Just a cool motion graphics-y circle shape layers thing. I apologize, I do a few pieces of these wrong. It would have been way easier once we realize we can flip the position of kind of our start and end point and go the opposite way. But I think it ended up looking pretty cool. So, yeah, fiddle around with these. I'm a big proponent of creating one thing, duplicating it, changing a little bit, duplicating again, changing a little bit. Honestly, that's how this stuff gets created. He probably had no idea when he made this where he wanted to go, but after he creates one cool thing, duplicates it, changes it, created another slightly different cool thing, adjusts the size, stuff like that. You can make some really cool stuff. So there you go. One little piece of that Lowe's animation. Hope that helps.